Hi, I'm Chris Johnson and welcome to the second video for Notation Nerd. In today's session, we're going to talk about how to explode music, implode music, reorder your staffs, and use keyless transposition. Let's get started. So often when we're writing music and we're harmonizing lines, it's really convenient to be able to add all of our harmonies on one staff, only to later separate them into multiple staffs. This way you can see the way that all of the notes work together very easily. And so the idea is we would take the music from looking like this and then explode it so that it looks like this. That's the first skill we'll work on. And then sometimes we may need to make some edits, and it's still convenient to have all the notes together, so we'll reverse the process by imploding the music. The next thing we'll talk about is reordering our staffs. In this case, we have the tenor saxophone voiced above the trombone. And for whatever reason, we may decide that it's actually better to have the trombone above the tenor sax while still maintaining the same notes. So through copy and pasting, or even through using the implode method, we'll talk about how we can achieve this. The last thing that we'll deal with is key signature transposition or keyless transposition. In this case, as you can see, this is all the music exploded, and now it's no longer displayed in concert pitch. For some of the instruments, there's some very unnecessary accidentals that are written that we really don't want to have to mess with. Something that's very common in music, especially music that uses a lot of chromatic notes, is to not use any key signature at all, even if it is still transposing for each instrument. And then the music would go from looking like this to looking like this. That's the last skill we'll work on in this video. Let's go ahead and get started, and we'll first start working with how to write music on one staff and then explode it. We're going to start off by looking at this bebop melody by Charlie Parker and talk about how we would approach harmonizing it. So we're going to be using our speedy entry tool in order to achieve this. Let's first take a listen to what the melody sounds like on its own. So we're really going to be relying on our playback in order to make decisions about what sort of harmony we're using under each one of these. So in order to add notes underneath each one of these, what we're going to have to do is take our speedy entry tool, and then from our speedy entry tool, you can see here how there's kind of a cursor that I can use my up and down arrows to move in between different notes. Let's say that underneath this F I wanted to add a D. What I would do is scroll until my cursor is on a D, and then hit my function and enter key. Now obviously that's a shortcut that is unique to someone using a Mac. If you're using a PC, you'd have to find exactly what that shortcut would be. I believe it would be your enter key, not your return key. And let's say underneath this I wanted to add a C. I would scroll down until I'm on C, function enter. Let's say I wanted to add an A. Scroll down to the A, function enter. Great. For this next note, I'm going to try using 7 diminished seventh, so I'm going to build E diminished chord. So I'm going to be right here. I'm going to say let me add a D, but then I want to flat that D. Now it's really important that when I flat this note that I am actually on top of my D. If I were down here and I hit F to get flat, it would flat everything within this beat. But I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that. I'm going to make sure I'm right on top of my D, and then hit F for flat. I'm going to add B flat underneath that, and I'm going to add G underneath that. I'm going to click outside the bar to space this out a little bit. Alright, for the F, I'm going to go back to my original voicing. For the C, let's go to F major 9. You kind of get used to reading the ledger lines underneath the staff. Okay, and I'm going to get a little closer by hitting Command 2 so that I'm zoomed in to 200%. Alright, let's keep going. Let's try F major 7 here, and we'll just go down a half step for our G sharp, back to F major 7 here, back to our F major 9. Okay, so now you can see we have our line harmonized, and then we can listen back to it before exploding to see if we like the way it sounds. Okay, so as I'm listening to that, I'm kind of unsure about this second beat here, and I want to try out something different. Instead, I want to just go down a half step from F down to E, back up to F, and I'll have all the voices do the same thing. What I'm going to do is I want to get rid of all this stuff, so I'm just going to hit R. That's going to turn this into a rest, and then I'm going to fill the notes back in. So I'm going to go ahead, even on top of a rest, if I want to add a note, I still just use function enter. I'm going to take each one of these voices down a half step so that my D goes down to C sharp and then back up to D. My C goes down to B, then back up to C, and then my A goes down to G sharp, back up to A. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, I'm a bit more satisfied with that. Okay, great. Now I'm going to go ahead and explode the music so that I can divide this into 4 different staffs. I'm going to select my first bar by clicking with the selection tool. I'm going to hold on to Shift on my keyboard and then click my last measure so that all 3 measures are selected. Now there's 2 different ways that I can bring up the explode window. The first is to go to Utilities, Explode, or from the selection tool simply hit the number 2. Now in this dialog window, what I want to understand is that I'm trying to split these notes into 4 different staffs. I'll change this to 4. Yes, I do want 1 note per staff. Yes, I do want it to explode from top down. Any extra notes, which we won't have, it says put in the bottom staff, but that doesn't matter for us. Now this is important. I can either place it into new staffs added to the bottom of the score, or I can use my existing staffs. Let's use our existing staffs, and we'll start with our trumpet, meaning that the top note will be in our trumpet. We hit OK, and this is what happens. Now, this is a quick arrangement. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bari sax match the trumpet by simply dragging this trumpet line down into my bari sax. And you can see now it's still written in the same register as the trumpet. I want to drop it down an octave. I'm going to select here, hold on to Shift, select here, and the default shortcut while using the selection tool for dropping something down an octave is the number 8. I hit the number 8 and my music's down an octave. Now let's see what it sounds like with my full section. Alright, now as I'm listening back to this, I'm noticing that I made a mistake. Somewhere around here, one of these chords is off, and I'm saying, okay, I'm noticing right now that I have a B natural here, and I know that I meant to have a B flat. Now let's say, for example, that I was having a hard time pinpointing exactly what the problem was, and I wanted to see everything back on the top staff. Now I could of course use my undo function, but instead I'm going to use the implode function by selecting this bar, holding on to Shift, and selecting the bar in the upper left hand corner of my trumpet part. And then from here I can either go to Utilities, Implode, or simply hit the number 1 while I have the selection tool selected. And it's going to ask me if I want to place the music into a new staff at the bottom of the score or just at the top staff of selection. I'm going to go with my top staff. Alright, now I can see my music again. I'm going to click here, and then you see that updated the spacing. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to scroll down to this B natural here, and I'm going to change that to a flat. And if there were any other things that I needed to do and check out, I could do that while it's imploded, and then just simply explode the music. Now when I do this, it's automatically just going to override any music that's in this space. I'm going to hit the number 2 again and hit OK, and we notice that there's a problem. The problem is that right now I had my tenor sax line doubled on the melody, and because I told it to include any extra notes in the bottom staff, you can see it put those in our trombone part. Let's hit Command Z to undo, and now when I hit the number 2, I'm going to tell it to split into 5 staffs. And now my music looks right. Now a common issue is that sometimes while we're arranging, we arrange things one way based on the way they appear in the score, and then we decide that we want them voiced a little bit differently. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to look at what if we wanted this tenor sax line to actually be the trombone line, and the trombone line to actually be the tenor sax line. Let's look at 2 different methods of how we could achieve switching these. The first would be, I'm going to simply grab the tenor sax line. I'm going to click the first measure, hold on to Shift, click the last measure, and I'm going to add it to my clipboard by hitting Command C. Now that tenor sax line has been copied, and now I can come down here, click the last measure, hold on to Shift, click the first measure of my trombone line, and drag it into my tenor sax line. Now right now you're noticing these are the exact same thing, but because I saved my tenor sax line in the clipboard, I can simply hit Command V, and now my trombone is playing the same line the tenor was playing. So that's one method that we can use to achieve this, but there's also another way. I'm going to start off by undoing the steps that I just took. Alright, so now we can see once again the tenor sax line is on top of the trombone line. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and implode my music so that everything's back in the trumpet staff. I'm going to hit the number 1, and I'm going to tell it I want it in the top staff of my selection. And now what I can do, this is a great feature in Finale 2012, is I can actually reorder my staffs in what's called the Score Manager. And in the Score Manager, I can simply drag this trombone line so that it's above the tenor sax, so that when I explode my music, the trombone line will be the top staff above the tenor sax. So we're going to go to Window, Score Manager, and I can see my different parts here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this space over here to click my trombone and drag it so that it is above the tenor sax and let go. Now I can X out of this window and I can clearly see that the trombone is above the tenor sax. Now the notes are still the same because I haven't exploded my music. So now when I explode the harmony, the trombone line is going to appear on top of the tenor sax line. And there we have it.